So I am working on building a state management bot from scratch. And so this is essentially how I did it, how I got into it. So first off, there's this link on Microsoft Docs for saving the state, and this is the guide to do it. But a quick rundown of how I explain it myself is that first, you're going to go ahead and create the structure of what you need. So I have this bot right here that's linked to a root bot, but in your app.py, the main application, you're going to switch out to your state management bot. And so that's going to take in conversation state and user state. And so conversation state and user state right here are going to also utilize memory-based storage. And so user state and conversation state right here as well are actually going to come from up here. So there you go. Conversation state and user state are going to come from your bot builder core. Okay, so that's one. And then after that, you're going to send that into the bot, and then you can create that state management bot as well. So that state management bot is actually pulled in from here, from your bots directory as a package right here. So that's what happened. Okay. So now we're looking to state management bot. So we're going to use asynchronous. So async IO, and then we're going to actually need bot builder core. We're going to need a couple of things, right? So before that, we're going to just start off with creating a state management bot as a class object and inherit from your activity handler, which is right here. Okay. So after that, we're going to go ahead and do our initialization constructor. So we're going to use self and then conversation state and user state. Those are the things that are coming in from our bot right here. Right. So we got conversation state and user state. So in order to make sure that these incoming parameters are of the type conversation state and user state, we're actually going to pull in those libraries as well from bot builder core. And then now we're going to check, okay, is that parameter from user state, conversation state, and user state, did they come in? Are they not none? Were they set? So over here, if you didn't set them back here, right, then it's going to come in as none, or null, I suppose. Right, so we need to make sure it's not null. Otherwise, we're going to raise a type error. After that, then we're going to create those number of variables. So within the object of a state management bot, we have a conversation state that we're going to be wanting to reference, as well as user state. So if we need to reference that within the object, then we also want to set that right away over to the conversation state. So this is all still within your initialization constructor, right, that function. And then we're going to create those accessing functions to be able to basically create those accessors or those properties. So right here we have self.conversation state accessor. So we're creating this function that's going, or this accessor that's going to call the conversation state, and then we're going to create a property of it. So within conversation state, this is a method that's within the conversation state, right? And then creating that property, we're going to call it conversation data. So the moment that a state management bot is created, it's also going to create this property. Okay, so then once it's property created, we can use it later as well. So that's basically the bot, right? Is that the bot itself now, right? It has configuration state and it has user state, and then we have the variables to hold it. And then if we want to use those variables, we need to be able to create some properties. Okay, so now if with a state management bot, right, we're going to handle some various things. And so with a bot, we deal with activities, we deal with turns at the basic level, and then we move into essentially having those things such as, a member was added and whatnot, right? So first, we'll look at a on-message activity. So we're defining a asynchronous function that whenever a message activity comes in, we're going to do some stuff, as well as right here we got on turn. So on the turn, we're going to do some things as well. So just to outline the structure. So first we have on message activity. We're going to take in self. So this is going to take in the constructor or the object of the bot itself. And then we're going to take in turn context. So whenever some message or activity happens, essentially what we're working with is the context of that turn, and then within it's going to have a lot of various things. And so, given that, then we're going to dive into here. So this will actually be a pretty good point to throw in a debugger. So, and then we'll run that. So first, kind of talk about the structure as well of how this is laid out. So we have that app, and then within that we have storage, and then we have our bot itself. So we're going to have that state management bot by within here, and then go initialize it. So this is just for if you wanted to do an import all from this package for bots. From bots, you're going to import all, right? And this is what's going to happen. But we can just expose it this way, and then we're also going to have our storage. So within our storage, we're going to have conversation data and our user profile data. So before we dive into anything past of how we're handling this activity, we'll talk about the data itself. So we'll go into the storage, and we'll start with conversation data. So we're going to instantiate we're going to declare a class of conversation data. And so whenever conversation data is created, this is what's going to happen. So this is like the property, right? Excuse me. So we initialize it with our structure, and then we say self. So then we're going to also have it where it's going to initialize a user ID, a channel ID, timestamp, and prompted for username. So user ID of whoever we're speaking with, channel ID of whatever channel we're going through, timestamp, and then prompted for username. This is important for the logic portion of what we're doing, which is first to at least just get a name or not. Maybe, or you have a name and then to get a name, right? And then within that, we're going to have those class variables as well. So once it's instantiated, we're going to take whatever came in, right, which at the moment is initialized to none, and then we're going to set that back into the class variables, right? And then it's also good to note that we have user profile as well. So a user profile at the moment, right, is just a name. So say that if we're going to admit to none as the default value, right? So this is important as it needs to make sure that there is a name during some logic later on. So you initialize self name. Let's throw something such as email, right? email is going to be a string, and we're going to do a none type, and then self.email equals email. Okay, we'll add that in as well. So now we jump over into okay, there you go. Then we jump back over to our state management bot. Okay, so from here we'll launch a debugger, and then I'm going to show this is the launch.json. So basically, you can create the launch file, name it, what kind of debuggers we're going to use. It's Python based, and then what's it going to run. So we're going to run the app.py. So by default, this will like run whatever file you're on, but the way this is set up, it's going to start from app, right? So the app's going to deploy the small plan. App's going to run our bot, so this is where we want it to start, right? And then it's going to go into our integrated terminal. So given that, we also have our emulator up. So okay, go ahead, jump into it, run. Okay, so it's running on 9080, I believe. So we're gonna go ahead and start the conversation. Okay. There you go. Okay, it's continued. So now it's running on 3980. There you go. And so now this can properly connect. So we start with a new user ID. Okay, we got the post request, conversation was created and updated as we connected. So first, we need to say something. Say hi. So what should I call you? So what happened is that go through message activity, took in the current turn context, and then we went ahead and created that profile by just waiting and then awaiting for the activity to be created, and then it's going to go and create this. So the wait's important because we're going to make sure that user profile is created, make sure that that's done and created before we go into creating the conversation data. So we're going to create this user profile using the user profile accessor, creating that property of user profile, and so it's going to set that and get that variable after the wait to use that function, get it, send it in the current context and the user profile. Then same thing for the conversation data. So now the logic of the bot. If the user profile, that name is none. So if there is if it's none type or null, right? Then it needs to go get that, right? So it's going to go on prompt that hasn't been made. So it's going to right here. It says, "What shall I call you?" So it's sending, it's awaiting, and then it's going to send that turn context as an activity over, and then it's using f strings, and then it's going to actually go ahead and so the bot's going to change that to true. Because now that it asked the prompt, we want to know that in the conversation, the data that the username is now has been asked for, which is important because now as the activity is going to go back and loop back over, it's going to go in else instead because now it's no longer none. Or hold on. You prompted for the username, ask for it, and then okay, there you go. And then once it goes back through, it's going to still see that, all right, even though we went through, said hi, and it said, what should I call you? So that's new activity. It's going to go and re-trigger message activity. I'm going to pull back and get all the data again. But it's going to see that the user profile name is still none. So it's going to go into this condition. And then it's going to see that we set it to true, so now it's not going to hit it, it's going to be false. So we're going into the else function. So now this is where we're living. So now it's going to say, hey, to get whatever activity we send to it, and then save it into user profile.name. So save it to the name variable within our user profile, which is our conversation. Related user profile, which is our data within our storage document, right? Okay, and we'll leave that up. So this is essentially where we're at. So now I'm going to say my name, which is Troy. Okay, so now it's going to be like, all right, well, awesome, we saved it. Now we want to acknowledge that, even just to let them, the end user know that the bot did receive it. So now it's going to wait and then send that activity over, and then we're using a message factory in this time, which is part of BotFrameworkv4 core. Send over that text as an upstream again, and so it's Troy, what a wonderful name, right? Which is good. That's what we want to see. And then from there, we're going to jump down and we're going to hit this guy. So now, what's happening is that if we have the username, and then now we're just going to go ahead and say some additional messages. So let's say, we'll say something simple like help, right? So now this is where we're at. And so really anything that you say there, it's going to jump into here. And what we're going for really is just to be able to state the data and everything and what has been said, and then adding a timestamp onto it as well. So this currently is not working, it's broken, but it also is important that we have async on turn. So this is another function so that on every turn that we're doing, so activity to the bot and back to the user, that we're going to save it. So it's going to take in whatever our turn context is, and then we're going to inherit everything from that. So we're going to make sure that we grab everything from current turn context, and then once we have everything, that we're going to save changes of the conversation state. So so that information isn't lost. Like, so once the conversation is going, say that I said the name, by the next turn when I say help, it's not going to forget my name, right? It's going to actually save that context, and so that we can continue on, having some more of the conversational history, right? And so it's going to go ahead and save conversation state and save user state. Right. So, given that, let's dive in and see what happens. So,
emotion is the key to all of this. As human beings, you need emotion to connect you with your spiritual self. Because emotion generates feeling.
There's no attribute.
You need emotions to
So
comprehend the non-physical,
probably means that
which is why emotions have been so
we're
controlled
missing
upon this planet. Most human beings
this
are afraid of their
being
emotional
part
or feeling center.
of
They are
this
afraid
area.
to feel. Trust
where this variable or the attribute of the class, right, doesn't exist yet. So it's unable to grab that and set that. So I'll dive into fixing that, but overall, that's basically how it is, and how to kind of trace the logic and step through it, and saving data, moving around with turns and activities, and then utilizing bot emulator to kind of see all of that as well. And so another thing, I'll do this real fast before I end it, is that jump to help. So the way I like to look at it is from left to right. So this is our user, and then say the bot's laying somewhere on the right. So it's moving this way. So I'm sending a message of help, and then the post right here is saying that through web chat, I'm returning a 524, and so given that the bot's just saying that via the adapter, the skill encountered an error. So that error being this guy, and that's essentially how you're going to keep on stepping through and debugging everything, and keep on just growing and building the bot itself.